I'm not sure I'm quite getting the point across the way I want to. Anyway. It seems the choice is being taken from me. It seems we are, being played. I do not like to play games as much as I once did. I know God does not play games. I, however, will join in for now. Of my three choices, my third and most vague has been presented back to me in messages, videos, and an Ofsted report. I must first, and not briefly, address someone, but I assure you it is most definitely connected. Dear YouTuber Spaceman, I must thank you twice now. First, for being the inspiration behind a letter that, though it may appear addressed to you, was in fact a convenient way to get a few things off my chest. Second comes with a rebuke also. What do you mean, YouTuber Spaceman, by typing into my message box? If I had spent more time educating myself, I would know the Earth is a sphere. What do you mean by education? A college degree or a university diploma? Are my 5 A to C GCSE grades not enough? Do you think the thousands of books I've read over 30 years has added nothing to my education? Do you think stacking shelves, reheating pub food, or decorating pizzas is not part of it? How about tending bar, or cellar management, stock take, cashing up, locking up? Do you imagine that terraforming a garden from an overgrown bramble patch into a landscaped oasis is easy? Do you have any idea what it takes to make a snooker table from scratch? From measuring and sawing rough wood, turning and carving legs, plane and polish to a high finish the cushion rails, cover and mark the table with baize, to transport an antique snooker table to Zurich? Would you like to come to dinner and I could cook for you any one of 100 meals without measurements or cookbook? Perhaps you need wallpaper putting up, or your skirting's painted, a carpet fitted, or parquet flooring laid. Perhaps I can teach you to draw. Do you really expect to be able to keep on calling people uneducated and not have them respond? I fully expect this is what you want, the company you need. Would you perhaps like to discuss historical figures such as Parmenion, the Macedonian general who took Philip of Macedon and his son Alexander to conquer the then known world, the Strategos? How about delving into the mathematical world? Should we discuss the properties of the hyperbolic plane and its relationship to crochet knitting? Maybe we'll discuss Aniziri or Thomas Hobbes. Maybe you think my time would have been better spent learning how politics really works, or economics. I prefer ergonomics. Do you honestly think I learned any of the above at school? Some will think me a show-off, some an idiot. I am happy. Enough with you, spaceman of YouTube fame. When you have grown up enough to accept that not everything you know is right, maybe we'll speak again. So education is my third choice. Why? How is it important or relevant to the flat earth discussion? Keep something in mind as I speak. Many people believe the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. This is bullshit. Any dog, no matter how old or young, with the right coaxing and encouragement, can learn anything they have a willingness to learn. But they must be willing. You cannot force a dog to learn much of anything. Quickly though, ideas. An online YouTube guide to any and all channels involved. An accompanying, comprehensive, all-encompassing data bank of all relevant and possibly irrelevant information pertaining to all things on Earth. Alright, it's already begun. But let us, this flat Earth moment grabbers, start our own site or sites showing our own unique ways of telling our own crap. Stop demanding ideas and come up with your own. Share them. This is the future of education, work, lives. It has already begun, and though we rail against it, we are all already willing participants of this worldwide machine. But will we get swallowed up by it, or can we learn to, if not control, but gently direct it? This machine of purpose, someone else's purpose, to our own direction, more beneficial to those that need it than those that do not. If you really want an idea, how about this? We have all seen the states-wide copycat news reports. Well, how about we mimic this, and all of us make a 3-minute, 2 or 1, whatever, little video, all saying the same few lines. Some can make it comical, others serious, or however, and we coordinate it again and again if need be. But we must, if we can, set an example. Not to be ultra polite or smart Alex with fancy words, but to be truthful and honest in our representations of ourselves. Mistakes must always be recognized, disagreements settled as amicably as possible, contentions continue to be debated peacefully, respectfully, rationally, and rotationally. So it was half 2 in the morning when I finished that. And I thought to myself, what am I doing? Oh, I'm wasting my time on that spaceman stuff. I have to justify myself to him. I'm not sure if many of you are aware. My middle son has recently changed schools. My eldest son, however, is still there and he's taking his GCSEs. There was a email sent out to all parents letting us know that Ofsted have been, and they've reported the school as inadequate. I'm in a quandary now. Do I walk away from it and just leave that school to rot, let that ship sink? Or do I carry on as I meant to do and try and do something to change it, even though my eldest will be leaving this year? My younger son is happy now. He's only been there a week and you can see it already. But do we leave the ship to sink? I'm just going to read the letter I wrote a few months ago now. And then I'll need to think on it some more. I am writing this open letter to all staff at the Priory in concern and consternation. I have 2 children attending this school, one of whom is, I hope, an exemplary student, with both good grades and a string of student awards for hard work and excellence. My eldest has always seemed happy, content, secure, if a little bored at times. An early case of childish nonsense in Year 7s was swiftly and promptly dealt with to satisfaction on all parts. However, my younger child has just started Year 7 and I feel something has changed. I hope I am wrong and somehow this situation has just been overlooked. Within a week, a fight broke out in an area of the school my child now feels uncomfortable going to, namely the AstroTurf playing pitch. This alone would never be enough to allow me to judge how the school deals with these situations, nor, frankly, do I feel the need to worry about how the school deals with said situations, short of corporal punishment, which no more need be spoke of. My problem is more personal, and yet is a problem for the whole school too. In my younger child's first month, a kick to the back resulting, I assume, from childish jostling, led to my child being shouted at to get dressed while the perpetrator was ignored. Another child called my child a silly childish name. After reacting and telling the other child to shut up, my child was kept behind for 20 minutes. While, with hand up, my child tried to explain the situation, the teacher chose to ignore my child. Both these situations I could just about look over as teething problems for any normal first-year student, and something my child would have to navigate on their own. However, having been sent home with homework consisting of watching a rugby match at the weekend, I began to feel a sense of unease I will explain further later. Having ignored making my child complete this ridiculous practice, my child returned to school the following Monday only to endure a rugby tackle. Having been left unattended by what my child described as a girl, I don't know, a teenager, no, not a teacher, during after-school football practice, while under the uncaring, unseeing eye of someone, another pupil decided to attack my child, first with the rugby tackle, as mentioned before, and was then subjected to what some of you will be familiar with, a wrestling move. And he was then placed on my child's chest while the usual childish mockery rang out, and the teacher, well, I have told you what my normally happy, articulate child said to me. There weren't one. Since starting, my child has been assaulted, ignored, punished, all for being in an unfamiliar place with unfamiliar people, unfamiliar harshness, and the realities of life. Having approached the school at least twice, talking and reassuring my child it is just a phase, I feel the unhappy, morose child my son has become is a poor reflection on what I had pinned as a good, if not excellent, school. I have, before now, had nothing but praise and admiration for the solid, albeit nearly redundant education and the support and well-being given to my eldest child during their time at this school. I sincerely hope all violence is stomped upon hard and fast. I hope you reconsider giving first years such homework as watching rugby. I appreciate that all staff work hard, have deadlines, quotas, guidelines, and ancient curriculums to follow. But I would appreciate some more compassion for your youngest and most vulnerable charges. A little more tolerance for the whole when punishing a class for the misdemeanors of 1, 2, or 3 pupils seems to be the norm. I entrust my child, nay my children, into your care for no less than 25 hours, sometimes as many as 40 hours per week, minimum 14 weeks per year. I entrust my children to the outside world for no less than 8 hours per week when they travel to and from my care to yours. I do not like to see any child unhappy. I especially, as you can imagine, do not like to see my own children unhappy. My son is very unhappy. And that's where I had to stop, because as usual, other things come up. And I still don't know what to do, do I? I don't know. And we all saw the little TruthStream media thing yet, with everybody on their mobile phones. You can't see what's going on. Just something I wrote this afternoon to finish up. For the destruction of the world's culture, Only our own stupidity will save us from the wrath of the rest of the world. For the crime of neglect, for the sorrow of negligence in the destruction of our own cultures, for the disaster a loss of heritage could well be, the loss it already seems to be, only our self-absorbed arrogance saves us from retribution, from the consequences of our inactions. How selfish, how arrogant to think it was all for us. The lies, the deception, the misdirection, all of it somehow designed for us, those that watch the internet. There are misconceptions everywhere, high opinions with little basis to stand upon, ideas touted as fact whether investigation has been conducted or not. To a piece of puzzle many hold tight and refuse to budge, to relax their grasp and try to realise there really is a much bigger picture looming behind their cowering, hunched, possessive stance. To what end is a critical mind when it fails to listen and take in all information from all sources, from all corners of the world at large? Many search fervently for the end. Many others seek endlessly the beginning. Others are stuck in the middle, confused as to which way to turn. Many, many more are completely oblivious to this growing paradigm, this polarizing view of the world that is wholly incomplete. Who cares how it all began when it still continues to this day? Many. Why do so many care about the end when the here and now needs them? Because. How come so many are so polarized? Assumption. Assuming it is all for you, let me ask you something. How did London become the city it is today? How about Paris, Berlin, Tokyo, Warsaw, Hanoi, or countless other towns, villages and cities across the world? Destruction. First, they all had to be destroyed. Then, they were rebuilt. All whether the people who lived there wanted it or not. Some people have been systematically putting in place a way of life that all of you willingly embrace, and yet thoughtlessly rail against it. All who would use one of those mobile devices are part of the distraction to carry out destruction. All who take an aeroplane, use a debit or credit card, all those who visit restaurants, familiar, not local, sit by the pool and not see the landscape about, support, unwillingly, unknowingly, to the reconstruction. All those who would drive, bus, coach, train to their destination, happily oblivious to the paths they are laying in front of and behind their very selves. All those entranced by the movies, TV, pop music, pop science, pop culture are unaware of the destruction they allow, while cheering at endless destruction placed before their eyes. Rail against forced dichotomies on a side not of their own choosing, forced to take a stance, enforce a line that is not their own. All of you whom claim you see, I ask you, have you yet learned how to listen, to hear, to combine all your senses and really see the truth. I fear every day the answer that lies on my heart. To make people understand is impossible. To ask people to understand is to confuse them. To tell them is to frighten them. But the truth must be told. Others, smarter than us, have run away with the candy sticks and kept them hidden from all. In return, they gave all of us sugar-coated twigs, coated in a shiny shellac veneer of many colours, almost too good in appearance to even lick. Yet those of us who have braved the crunch, the bite, found the now rotten wood inside. Not all have yet even considered the first mouthful. Some have crunched through it without tasting and begged for more. More still sit and gaze, coveting their treasure. I spat that bullshit piece of wood out of my life many years ago. I'm sure many of you have no ideas what I'm talking about. Neither do I sometimes. I'm not as unhappy as I look or sound. Peace and luck to you all.